The Nikon Zfc has a retro design, compact and lightweight, but don't be fooled by its appearance. This is essentially a cheap plastic toy with very low quality build and handling. The autofocus feels cheap, especially when paired with the 16 to 50 mm kit lens. The image quality is equally underwhelming. In short, this is a plastic toy rather than a reliable photography tool. If we talk about its strengths, the appearance is definitely worth mentioning. When paired with a Leica lens via an adapter, it looks stunning. However, it's best admired from a distance. Once you handle it, the plastic feel gives you cheapness. Another advantage is its portability, weighing only 445 grams, including the battery and memory card. If you are used to the heft of full-frame cameras, the ZFC feels almost weightless in your hands. However, this extreme lightness also contributes to its cheap feel. The ZFC comes with 20 built-in creative filters, easily accessible via the eye menu. Some filters mimic the look of vintage film, while others are more exaggerated. I tested all the filters right after getting the camera, and it's a fun feature, especially for beginners, though it may not appeal to advanced or professional users. You can shoot in RAW plus JPEG format, applying the built-in filters to JPEGs while retaining the flexibility to edit RAW files later for different looks. Personally, I like the melancholy filter, which adds a reddish tint to images. The camera's top plate features 3 dials for ISO, shutter speed, and exposure compensation, a retro layout that meets the expectations of photography enthusiasts. In manual mode, this setup allows for faster operation compared to mainstream mirrorless cameras. However, the dials feel cheap, lacking the satisfying tactile feedback of metal. Instead, they have a plastic quality. The ISO dial lacks an auto setting, which is a shame. You have to dive into the camera's menu to enable auto ISO. In photo mode, if auto ISO is set, the ISO dial becomes non-functional even in M mode. In video mode, however, you can configure the ISO dial to adjust ISO in M mode. This interaction logic is quite odd. I believe the ISO dial should have an auto option, like Leica cameras, for smoother and faster operation. The settings logic should also be consistent between photo and video modes. The shutter speed dial does have an auto setting, labeled as 1/3 step. It took me a while to figure this out. In this mode, when using M or S mode, you can adjust the shutter speed with the rear dial. Modern metering technology is reliable enough that in most cases you can set both ISO and shutter speed to auto and only adjust exposure compensation manually. There is a small screen between the ISO and exposure compensation dials that displays the aperture. It took me a long time to notice this feature. In full menu mode, you can check ISO, shutter speed, and aperture just by looking at the top plate without glancing at the main screen. At the top right corner is the video button, and here is where the tricky interaction logic resurfaces. In photo mode, you can't set the video button to start recording video. To shoot video, you must toggle the photo-video switch. In video mode, however, pressing the shutter button takes a small-sized JPEG photo. In contrast, Canon and Sony cameras allow you to quickly start video recording with the video button, while in photo mode, and pressing the shutter in video mode only triggers autofocus. Most manufacturers follow this logic, including older Leica models like the M240, where the video button is always used for recording videos. Nikon's completely opposite logic feels counterintuitive. As a retro camera primarily designed for photography, the inability to quickly shoot video with the video button is hard to adapt to. To delete a photo, you double tap the delete button, which is convenient but risks accidental deletion. I have already fallen victim to this once. For such operations, I'd prefer a slower, more deliberate process. There is a shortcut button on the lower front of the camera, similar to Canon's design. However, the ZFC's compact size makes it easy to accidentally press the button. By default, it controls white balance, so I often found white balance menu popping up during shooting. I reassigned it to control the focus frame, so accidental presses don't disrupt the shooting experience. Pairing the retro body with a manual lens is a perfect aesthetic match. Nikon seems to have considered this, as the DFC allows you to register non-CPU lenses, recording their focal length and maximum aperture for easier photo organization. However, some Leica-specific focal lengths, like Voigtlander's 21mm and 90mm, aren't available. I had to settle for 20mm and 86mm. The two zoom in out buttons on the right seem designed for manual lenses, making it easy to magnify the image for precise focusing. The Leica M11 has a similar button on its top right, used for magnifying the frame for focusing. Out of habit, I set the ZFC's video button to magnify the frame for focusing. Unfortunately, the video button can be customized for various functions. It still can't be set to start video recording in photo mode. I hope Nikon addresses this with a firmware update. Another aspect that makes the ZFC feels like a toy rather than a serious photography tool is the photo playback information. It only displays the shooting time and image size. Pressing the displayed button doesn't give additional details like ISO or aperture, which feels very amateurish. There's no reason to omit this functionality. Regarding the image quality, the ZFC performs well for an APS-C camera, but coming from a full-frame camera, I found it very disappointing. The 16-50mm kit lens is particularly boring, with poor sharpness and autofocus. It's barely usable and makes the camera's image quality feel mediocre, sometimes worse than a smartphone, which benefits from computational photography, with full-frame cameras becoming more affordable. If you want superior image quality, you might consider skipping APS-C and investing in a full-frame camera. The image quality issues also largely stem from the cheap kit lens. If you invest in better lenses like the Z24mm f1.7 prime, the image quality improves dramatically, clearly surpassing smartphone results. You can also adapt small f-mount primes like the DX35mm f1.8 or 50mm f1.4, which deliver excellent image quality. However, the Z11 to 28mm video lens performs poorly in photo mode, on par with the 16-50mm kit lens. It's clearly optimized for video, not stills. When adapting Leica lenses, which often cost more than the ZFC itself, the 20-megapixel sensor shines. The pixel density of a 20-megapixel APS-C sensor is roughly equivalent to a 30-megapixel full-frame sensor, but most lenses can't fully resolve 30 megapixel on full frame. Thus, improving image quality depends not only on the camera body, but also on using high-quality lenses. If your budget is limited to a APS-C body, or you prefer a lightweight, compact setup, you will still need to invest in some better lenses. Skip the kit lens and avoid small aperture zooms. Keep ISO low for cleaner images, and choose high-resolution lenses to make the most of the 20-megapixel sensor. The ZFC lacks in-body image stabilization. Coming from a Canon R6 Mark II with IBIS and lens body stabilization synergy, it took time to adjust to the ZFC. The lack of stabilization reduces the success rate of shots, which reminds me of using a digital SLR like the 5D Mark II years ago, where camera shake often caused blurry images. With the ZFC, you need faster shutter speeds, similar to shooting with a Leica. However, Leica bodies and lenses are heavier, which minimizes shake. The ZFC's lightweight design makes it prone to movement, increasing the risk of blur. These are my thoughts after using the ZFC for 2 months. Its image quality didn't impress me, but its compactness is a strength. If you opt for the ZF, you will get better image quality, but the weight increases, and full-frame lenses are larger and heavier. Image quality and weight are a trade-off. For those who already have a full-frame camera, the ZFC is a great compact complement. Paired with some small prime lenses, it can still deliver some decent image qualities without the burden of weight. If you found this video helpful, give me a like. I will see you next time.